Hello. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Hello. Hi. It's 6:15. So I guess everybody can hear me okay, right? Can you hear me at the back? Yeah. Excellent. Wow. There's lots of people here. Thank you very much. Cheers. Yeah. It's my birthday, everybody. It's not great. I'm 41 years young, so if I live to 80, I'm halfway there. So it's all good fun. I never expected myself to be doing this when I was a little boy, but here we are. Anyway, so Block Party 1. Wow, this is Australia's first blockchain and cryptocurrency super week, and it was the brainchild of a very special gentleman called William Saunders. Do we have a William Saunders in the house?
Happy birthday,
Thanks very much, William. Excellent. So this is William Saunders. When did you think of this idea to do a super week, Will? A shower thought, right, but quite recently, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks for that, Will. I'll remember to keep calling on you. Okay, cool. So this is Australia's first blockchain super week, and we've got a series of events on all week long. Does everyone know about all the events that we're having this week? If you put your hand up. Everyone knows about all the events that are happening. Excellent. Is everyone going to come to all of the events all week? Excellent, good stuff, brilliant, good stuff, excellent. So we're actually trying first tonight. We're live streaming this on Facebook as well. So on the Blockchain Centre Facebook page, we're live streaming this for future prosperity. And also we're going global with blockchain centres now. So there's a blockchain centre opening in Kuala Lumpur in cooperation with the NEM Foundation. And then there's also one in Shanghai as well, which we're opening in October. So it's pretty exciting times for the Blockchain Centre. Cool. So let's go through the slides here. So first of all, thank you very much to our inaugural Block Party 1 sponsors, which are Indoors, CoinStop, Blockchain Global, Hcash, ACX, Norn. And we've actually got some members of the team here, but I'll just read out a couple of words about each project, because they've actually, this is their banners here, and they've sponsored this week of events to help cover the costs of the event space and some catering and for bits and bobs. So CoinStop, which is the #1 supporter. So CoinStop is Australia's leading cryptocurrency hardware wallet provider. They're an authorised resellers of both Ledger and Trezor wallets, which are two of the leading hardware wallet manufacturers in the world. So to find out more about CoinStop, you can visit coinstop.com.au, or you can actually go and speak to the founders. So the founders are here tonight. So if you want to point out the founders over here, these are the founders of CoinStop. So thanks very much, guys. You've been a great support to the community, and you've actually got a display there as well, right, of different devices that you can buy. So nice one, guys. Thank you. Indoors. Now, Indoors is a decentralized professional network powered by Ethereum technology. It's a reliable channel to get your skills endorsed and showcase them. So a network that lets you own your data and monetize your activity. And you can find their website, indoors.io. And I do believe we've got someone from Indoors here tonight as well, over here. Excellent. So yeah, so if you've got any questions about Indoors, he's your man over there. So Blockchain Global, which is the anchor tenant and sponsor of Blockchain Centre. They're an investment company investing in Bitcoin blockchain startups, and they're the main sponsor of the centre, as I mentioned. ACX is Australia's largest Bitcoin cryptocurrency exchange, has the most liquidity and the order book of Bitcoin in Australia. It does about 70% of all Bitcoin trades in Australia is done through ACX. And also we should have flyers as well. So if you haven't got an account with ACX, there's a $10 discount flyer that you can use. So just grab a flyer there from the team over there. You can see the team there. I've got Blockchain Centre t-shirts on, such as Jolene there. Jolene, that's Jolene, and David over there. So there's a few guys over there. Hcash. Hcash is a new project which recently did an ICO, and it's just recently had a $1 billion market cap. So it's a decentralised and open source cross-platform cryptocurrency. So you can check out the white paper on Hcash, h.cash. And Norn. So Norn is a recent project. It hasn't actually been developed yet. They're just sort of doing some promotions at the moment. So they're a new AI-infused smart business system. You can find out more information by visiting their website, which is Norneer, which is Noir sorry, nornir.io. So it should be on their banner there. That's Noria. So thanks very much for the support of Block Party 1 sponsors. Okay, cool. Moving on. So also, you might have noticed a banner here at the front there called the Big Umbrella. So the Big Umbrella, we've been supporting the Big Umbrella for about a year now, yeah, they do a lot of great work for not only homeless people in Melbourne, but also for street kids in Nepal. And we recently took part in a team building activity, our second, where we helped give out food, reclaimed food on outside Flinders Street there. So it's open to all corporates to do actually. It's a team building activity. It was the second time we did it. It's a really good experience. And they've also just opened up their own social enterprise cafe on Queen Street as well. And there's Justin, the founder, with a couple of his team members that are volunteers. And 50% of all the profits go back into sustaining the charities. So it's great to be able to help those guys out. So in the time that Big Umbrella's been around, they've actually helped 104,000 homeless people, shared over 100,000 meals, had over 22,500 volunteers, and they've reclaimed 218 tons of food as well and given it out. So it's great to be able to support the work that Justin and the team does. Oh my, there you go, excellent. Cool, so that's basically where your donations have gone tonight, and I'll post up the amount that we've raised at the end of the week of all the events that we do, so you can see it on the comments of the events there as well. Okay, so yeah, tonight Bitcoin Blockchain 101 with myself. So I'm the CEO and Global Director of Blockchain Centre. I've got this Global Director title now because we're expanding globally, and we've got an expanded team as well. So it's great to have new people on board. A little bit about the Blockchain Centre. So we're actually just next door, and at the end of this presentation tonight, you're welcome to come back for a few drinks and see the Blockchain Centre if you haven't visited there before. We've got the world's only Bitcoin mining museum. We've got an event space, an outdoor balcony. So it's quite an interesting space. We've actually got an enlarged white paper as well, so you can see the Satoshi white paper, and we've got some cool graffiti artwork there as well. And if you do have your own startup and you're looking for a place to sort of work out of, and if it's Bitcoin or blockchain related ideally, then we have a free Monday that you can come by. Cool, so these are the prices, pretty reasonable co-working space there, but really the value is in kind of networking and being around like-minded people that are passionate about blockchain technology. And yeah, we've got obviously a growing community. These stats are out of date now, so we've just gone over 1,500 for the community members for the Bitcoin Centre. Blockchain Melbourne, which is the other large blockchain community meetup group, which is co-organised by myself and Alan Sen, has got over 2,000 people now, so it's really growing exponentially, the ecosystem. But we are primed to be the knowledge hub for blockchain technology in Australia. And that's the end of the slides. So now I'm going to jump over to some web links. Cool. So before I do that, has anyone here used Bitcoin before? If you can just give me a show of hands. Who's used Bitcoin? Oh, a few of you. So who hasn't used Bitcoin? Okay, excellent. I shouldn't put my hand up. I've used it a couple of times before. Okay, excellent. That's really, really cool. And who's been to the Blockchain Centre before? Just a few of you. Oh, right. Okay, brilliant. Well, that's great. So I don't quite know how it is that we've managed to get so many new people interested in what we're doing now. But it's yeah, rock on, Block Party 1. And then the vision is as we roll out more centres around the world, we'll have Block Party 2, Block Party 3, and we can do them in synchronisation with other centres around the world to create a sort of a global community or help to grow the global community. So those of you that haven't used Bitcoin or blockchain technology before, because Bitcoin is the kind of first example of blockchain technology, if you want to download this app, it's completely free to download. And basically it just will give you access to the Bitcoin network. And later on, if you come and grab myself or one of the team, they will be able to give you a couple of dollars worth of Bitcoin absolutely for free, just so you can test out the system. Now, there's lots of different free applications that you can use, but Airbits is my personal favourite. I actually know the team in California that produced the app. They're all about privacy, decentralisation, security. They're not custodians of your private keys, so they don't have access to your funds. It's completely encrypted and sandboxed inside your device. So it's really down to you, which is the way Bitcoin should be used, that you are in control of your private keys, as opposed to storing them on a centralized server or with a third party. So Airbits is a really cool application. It's got really good functionality as well. It's got full accounting. It's got a merchant directory which is geolocated, so you can see what businesses accept Bitcoins in your local area. And they're really, really good guys. But there's loads to choose from, but having used a lot of them, I know Airbits to be really, really cool. So if you download that tonight at some stage, then later on we can give you some Bitcoins and you can do some transactions around the network. Okay, excellent, cool. So here we go. So let me just bring up my phone right now. Okay, cool. So it's good to probably start at the beginning. So has anyone seen this document before? A few people, excellent. Not so many people, excellent, great. So this is the white paper or the blueprint of how the Bitcoin blockchain system works. So Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. So if you really want to learn about blockchain technology, then you really should start with this, often overlooked, but it will explain exactly how the Bitcoin network works. The abstract is pretty simple and easy to understand. So a purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution. So that's pretty much, pretty self-explanatory there. It does go into the technicalities of how the system works with regards to how transactions are put into blocks, how they're time-stamped, the way the network reaches consensus on deciding which are genuine transactions and which aren't. And the incentives to actually secure the network as well. So it's a very elegant paper which combines economics with game theory, computer science, cryptography. So, if you haven't had any experience with computer science, because I'm not a computer scientist, but I was very passionate about learning about this technology, I definitely advise you go to this paper first. And it even actually references previous work that was done in the field going all the way back into the 1950s with regards to probability theory and application. So it's actually quite interesting where the technology that goes into Bitcoin has actually been around for quite some time, but it wasn't until 2009 when the protocol was released that it actually made this very new system that does what it does. So this is the first application of blockchain technology, which is the Bitcoin white paper. And I guarantee you, if you take the time to read this, then you'll know 99% of more than most people out there, and as well a lot of people that are writing about Bitcoin as well. So very empowering to sort of learn about this. Okay, cool. So why Bitcoin? Like, why is it important, and what is the point of it? So in the Genesis block, which is the first block of Bitcoins that were mined, or the first bunch of transactions that get written onto the ledger, there's an actual reference to the Times of London regarding the Chancellor of the Bank of England being on, here it is, the Chancellor on the brink of the second bailout for banks. So this was on the 3rd of January 2009. This is a signed message into the first block of Bitcoins that were mined. One would assume by Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever he, she or they are. And there's been a lot of conjecture and sort of media about who it might be. I don't think they have been found yet, but there's definitely some good candidates out there. So one could probably assume that this is sort of pointing to the reason why Bitcoin is important, and maybe sort of the timing of Bitcoin as well. So in 2008, as we all know, we had the financial crisis, and I guess it's down to people's opinion to what really happened there. But the thought is that the world wasn't really ready for a technology like Bitcoin until such time as the 2008 crisis happened, whereby confidence in governments and central banking and banks and the monetary system is at an all-time low, and maybe there's a new way or an alternative monetary system, such as this Bitcoin system. Okay, cool. So this is a really awesome video to play, but we've got a bit of issues with the audio, so I'm not going to be able to play this video, but it's basically called the Bitcoin and Blockchain Technology Explained, or what is the blockchain actually. It's 6 minutes long. I can't play it for you tonight because of the audio, but I will post a link to it in the comments of the meetup page, and then you can watch it at your leisure. But in my mind, it's probably the best 6-minute explainer on blockchain technology and its potential use cases. Cool, so the blockchain. So this is a block explorer. I should say I used to actually do like a PowerPoint slideshow, but what I found is as I've kind of been in the industry for some time, I kind of think it's good to actually show working demonstrations of the websites that are good resources to use in my mind. So this is the blockchain, blockchain.info. It's an American company, and what they do is they display network information about what's happening on the network. So it's just real-time network information. So here we can see that these are blocks that have been created, and this is the block height there, which is 483,425. So that's the amount of blocks that have been created since January 2009, and roughly every 10 minutes a new block is created on the Bitcoin network. So it's kind of like the transactions have been sent around the network, and then they've been put into a block, and then they then go on to look for another block of transactions that goes onto the network. So you can find out all information about the network, all of like the currency statistics, how many transactions are pending. You can see here it's actually got a counter, the number of Bitcoin transactions in the last 24 hours, about 200,000. So, and then the market cap right now, we're looking at $76 billion US market cap. So this is, so going from 8 years ago, Bitcoin was worth zero. It didn't even get a market price until 2010, where it was about 6 cents. And now it's obviously 76 billion. Only just over a year ago, it was just over 10 billion, less than $10 billion. So it's gone up quite a lot in the last sort of 12, 18 months. But it's been going up over time since it really came out. So this is a great resource, blockchain.info. You can find out lots of information about the network. And if we actually look into one of the blocks right here, we can find out more information. So in total in this block there was 1,650 transactions. The estimated transaction volume was $5 million. And there was a total of transaction fees of 9,000. So every time you send a Bitcoin transaction, most of the wallet applications will do this for you automatically. They'll include a small fee. So it used to be free to send transactions on the Bitcoin network, but as it's become closer to capacity, there's an actual kind of like a fee market developed, where if you want your transaction to get included onto the next block, you need to include a small fee. And depending on how much demand is on the network, that will determine the amount of fee that you should put in. So sometimes it can actually go up to a few dollars as a fee if you want to get your transaction confirmed into the next block, so then the person can then spend that on. So there's been a lot of debate in the ecosystem about, Bitcoin should have very low fees, and some people think it should be used as maybe as a store of value and not so much as a currency or for like micro payments, but maybe used as a store of value, whereby it's used for larger payments like buying cars or buying houses. So the idea that some people have the idea that Bitcoin should be like a digital gold, and if you think about actually storing physical gold, it's very expensive, it's hard to move around. But whereas with Bitcoin, obviously you can send it on the internet, but it can be more expensive than some of the other blockchain implementations that have got faster transaction throughput. So So it's pretty amazing considering that this is a decentralized network and it's never had any downtime for 8 years. So like I use Westpac and I use this example a lot, not to beat on Westpac at all, but quite often I get like, routine maintenance between the hours of 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. on a Sunday, you won't be able to access your internet banking. So, which isn't an issue for me, but Bitcoin has never had that, and it's kind of kept going for 8 years, and it's a decentralized system. So it's pretty amazing, really. So we can see all the transactions that happen in this block, and we can see that they're just basically identifiers of addresses. So some people say that Bitcoin is anonymous. Well, it's not really anonymous. It's pseudo-anonymous, whereby if I send somebody a Bitcoin, then I have to know their address, and then they know my address because it's written on the blockchain, as we can see. But there isn't any names attached. However, if you are wanting to be transparent, you can actually tag your address. So if you're kind of like a charitable organisation, for instance, you can actually tag your address, and then you can show the world all of your inputs or outputs or debits and credits, which are going to your address. But right now you can see that we don't know who owns any of these addresses, but we do know that it was relayed to this organisation here, which is called F2 Pool. So I'll just jump back here. So WikiLeaks in 2011, they had an embargo put on them by the US government because they weren't happy about some of the things that were going on WikiLeaks. And so they weren't allowed to accept payments from Visa, MasterCard or PayPal. So they started accepting Bitcoin, and it gave them a bit of press actually. And soon after, Satoshi Nakamoto, kind of the creator of Bitcoin, sort of disappeared. So there's some sort of opinions that maybe it was time for him to leave the project once the CIA became interested in the project. And we can see the WikiLeaks here. So this is an example of tagging your addresses. So WikiLeaks are wanting to sort of display all the donations that they've received, and we can see there we just entered their address into the blockchain.info search engine, and we can see all the transactions that have ever happened to that address. Now they might have other addresses that they're not disclosing here, but we can see right up to date they've received $17 million worth of Bitcoin to their public address, which is a total of 4,000 Bitcoins. And right now they've got 7 Bitcoins sitting in the address. So then they would then probably look to pay their suppliers, or they can exchange it for dollars, etc. So it kind of makes me think that, well, if this technology exists where you can be like super transparent with all your credits and debits, then maybe why don't more organisations start to use it? So that's a sort of a question that I have. Okay, cool. So how does actually Bitcoin secure? How is the Bitcoin network secured? And if there's no one in charge, then how does it decide what transactions should be put onto the system, added to the blockchain ledger? So it does this through a process called mining. So Bitcoin mining. So the analogy is that if you were to go mining for gold, for instance, then you could do that, and we could do that now. We could go to Ballarat all together, take a few coaches there, and go to Sovereign Hill and go panning for gold. The chances are we're probably not going to be very successful, not as successful as maybe Fortescue Metals Group or like a large mining company. But however, if we were to say, okay, we're all going to go mining together looking for gold, and then if someone finds gold, we'll share in that reward. So there's a better chance that we're going to at least get a little bit of return on our investment for our time or looking for gold. And that's the analogy for the mining pools. So right now, I'll just do this with one hand, it's quite heavy. So this is a Bitcoin mining machine. So they've gone through various iterations since the protocol was released in 2009. At the start, you could mine it with your laptop because the CPU power that you required to actually mine the blocks was very small, because there wasn't many people actually contributing to the network. As the network has grown, so has the difficulty to actually mine a block or find a solution to the problem that the network is actually putting out. So every 10 minutes there's a problem put out by the network, and it's it's an arbitrary calculation that needs to be done. And in order to do that, you need to kind of run these CPU cycles. So over time, as the value of Bitcoin has gone up, so there's been like an arms race, or kind of a race to produce more and more efficient hardware that can mine the Bitcoins more efficiently. So the idea is if you can have the most efficient mining technology and find the cheapest electricity, then you can outcompete your competitors, and you will then be profitable at Bitcoin mining. So this is one of the operations that Blockchain Global has been involved in some time, is Bitcoin mining operations in China, and now in Mongolia, whereby we use hydropower electricity and buy many thousands of these machines at scale for a good price to be able to be competitive at Bitcoin mining. So I'll just put that down, it's quite heavy. So that machine there is worth about $2,000, and there's like literally hundreds of thousands of them all around the world. Right now the output is around the same as the country of Denmark, so that's the amount of electricity that's being consumed to secure the Bitcoin network. So it's actually done in a... so the reason why the miners would join a pool is you could buy one of these machines and you could plug it in, and you could be competing against the rest of the network, but the chances of you out-competing all of the other hundreds of thousands of machines is quite slim. So what you do is you lend your hash power, or your hardware power, to one of these mining pools, who then aggregate out the variance of your payout. So right now we can see BTC Top, which is a mining pool, so they've got 16% of the global hash rate, or the computational power. So roughly out of every 100 blocks, they're winning about 16. And then the miners that are contributing to that pool will then share out the block reward. So every 10 minutes, 12.5 Bitcoins are created, which are worth X amount of dollars, and all the transaction fees that are included into that block are then given to one of these mining pools, who then distribute out the value to the contributors to the pool. Now, so right now we can see that it's relatively decentralized. There's not one entity that has more than half of the power of the network. If you had, say, BTC Top had over 51% of this chart right here, then they potentially could decide what transactions get added to the blockchain and which transactions don't. So then we've got like a centralized system, so like Visa, PayPal, MasterCard, Westpac, obviously you know what a centralized system is. So as long as it stays decentralized and the transactions can be always added into the block without there being any censorship, then it retains its decentralization and its censorship resistance, and also its value. So right now it's like Bitcoin is worth like 6,000 Australian dollars, and people say, well, why does it have that value? Well, the value is a few things really. I mean, one thing is it's scarce. Its scarcity is baked into the system. There will only ever be 21 million, and it's a predetermined currency issuance system. So every 10 minutes there's only a certain amount of Bitcoins that are issued. It started off at 50 Bitcoins every 10 minutes for the first 4 years. Then it went down to 25 Bitcoins for the next 4 years. Now we're in the third section of the 4-year period, where it's now 12.5 Bitcoins until 2020. Then it will go down to 6.25 and then 3. So by the year 2030, 99% of all Bitcoins will be mined, and then the remaining 1% will be mined over the next 110 years, up to the year 2141, and then there'll be no more Bitcoins. So right now it's kind of, you know, people say it's a deflationary currency. Well, it's inflationary because there's, you know, 12.5 Bitcoins every 10 minutes, but obviously it's on a deflationary curve. And so right now there's a massive incentive for miners, or there has been for miners, to mine Bitcoins and then potentially hold them, because over time they've been going up in value. So a common question about the mining is, well, what happens when there's less Bitcoins being mined? What incentivizes the miners to continue mining the blocks and spending all this money on electricity and this hardware? Well, that would be the transaction fees. So over time, as more and more people use the network, there's been more and more transactions put into the blocks. So the transaction reward's been going up over time. So as the Bitcoin block reward goes down and the transaction fees go up, then that should still incentivize the miners to continue mining the blocks. And if you look at the statistics, you can see that has been the case. However, there's lots of conjecture about whether Bitcoin could ever be like a payment system like MasterCard or PayPal, because it's not centralized, therefore it doesn't have the same throughput capacity as what you would do with a centralized system. So there's certain payoffs for having decentralization and censorship resistance. So yeah, these are some of the things that are being worked on right now. One of those things is kind of layer 2 scaling solutions, whereby software developers, like core developers, are proposing keeping the Bitcoin blockchain sort of at a very low capacity, whereas it's like 1 megabyte of worth of data every 10 minutes, but then adding layer 2 scaling, so we don't change necessarily the block size of the main blockchain, but there's technology that gets added to the side of it, for instance. So yeah, I mean, for those of you, it's like your first sort of introduction to Bitcoin and the blockchain. I don't want to go too deep into this, but basically Bitcoin is a open source software project. It's a public blockchain, so anyone can read the code, anyone can suggest proposals to the development team as well. There's lots of developers working on the Bitcoin protocol all over the world, and you can look up all of the BIPs, which are the Bitcoin improvement proposals. So you can actually see what developers have kind of contributed, what code has been admitted into the network. So it's really, really transparent. So I hear a lot of the time in the industry over the last few years of like people calling themselves a Bitcoin core developer, and then when you look up their name and see how much code they've actually submitted that's been implemented, you might find that it's like maybe hardly any, as opposed to some that really don't sort of talk too much, have done a lot of work there. But one of the things that I love about this system is it's completely transparent, and it's always upgradable as well. So it's a real sort of a socio-economic, political, cultural movement. And some people look at the Bitcoin and blockchain technology not just as a technological innovation, but as a values innovation, because of all the potential applications you can use this technology for, kind of like the internet, I guess. So how are we doing for time? Wow, time goes quick, doesn't it? Okay, so SHA-256 calculator, maybe we won't go into this too much, but this is basically, if you do SHA-256 in your web browser, then you can actually see like what the miners are really doing here. It's really quite simple. So SHA is secure hash algorithm, and 256 is the type of cryptography that is being used by the Bitcoin network. So these chips that are inside these mining machines are basically, that's all they do is SHA-256 calculations. So it's basically a form of cryptography that's created by the NSA many years ago. It's a really strong form of cryptography, which is what lends its security to the Bitcoin network. And these machines run these chips called ASIC chips, application-specific integrated circuits. They just do this one particular calculation for the Bitcoin network. So all the data that's flying around the network, which is completely transparent, the miners are collecting that information together, and they're just running this arbitrary calculation and trying to find a specific number. When they find that number, they'll broadcast it to the network, and then they're allowed to add the transactions to the blockchain. So I won't do an example here now, but it's actually quite cool the way that it's secured. So how do wallets communicate with each other, or addresses communicate with each other? So there's a few different ways that you can actually use the Bitcoin network. You can download an app like I showed you before, Airbits and blockchain.info. There's a few different service providers that make the apps. You can actually create your own paper wallet. You can actually have a hardware wallet, and it's quite ironic that the actual safest way to secure your Bitcoins is actually offline as opposed to being online. The reason is there's less attack vectors if your private keys are secured offline. So I'll just show you this one here. So this is Bitcoin paper wallet, and the most secure way to generate your private keys, or a Bitcoin address, which is like it's kind of, you can think of it like your bank account and sort code, and then your PIN number. So it's called a key pair, and So we're just going to create a key pair now. So this is just open source software that anyone can download from a trusted website, and you can check out the link to verify the author of the software. So I'm just creating entropy right now, and then it's going to basically create a key pair for me. So here we go. Okay, and then we just do print front. Cool. So this is a Bitcoin address. So this has never been created before, and it never will be created again. So we've got the public address, which is kind of like your bank account and sort code, and then you've got your private key, which is your PIN number. So you can show this to anyone. You can throw it on your website, you can have it on your phone, display it to anyone. You could even send it to someone in an email or Bluetooth it, and then they can send you money to that address. So that's completely safe to share that with anyone. But this is your private key, which is what you need to keep safe, because if anyone has access to this, then they potentially, well, they have access to your Bitcoins. So if you are wanting to secure some value in Bitcoins, then it's worthwhile educating yourself how to maybe not produce a paper wallet like this. I mean, you can, but there's also hardware solutions that you can use are quite user friendly as well and very, very secure. And this is basically what it looks like. So this is a paper wallet right here. And if you download the software from Bitcoin Paper Wallet, you can actually get different designs as well. So I got some friends who recently got married, and my friend Brandon, he's Chinese, so he made up these red ones as well with Chinese symbols on them, and I gave them 0.3 of a Bitcoin for their wedding present. And this was a few years ago now, so they're really happy with their wedding present now. I don't know if they know even how to spend it, even if they wanted to. So who knows? It might be able to buy them their kids' college education or something if they hold on to it for a few years, or not, as the case may be. So obviously none of this is financial, advice, and it's really we're just focusing on the technology and how to use the technology safely, or just a bit of an intro to it. So this is a Bitcoin paper wallet. So I actually store my Bitcoins on these paper wallets that I've produced offline on a dumb printer, so they're not connected to the internet. And then I store them in a safety deposit box, and I feel pretty confident that they're safe there. And the only way somebody could steal my Bitcoins is if they actually got physically hold of that actual Bitcoin paper wallet. But there are other options such as the Trezor, and the guys from CoinStop actually sell these wallets as well. So to buy Bitcoins, so there's lots of different ways you can buy Bitcoins. You can go buy peer-to-peer, where you can meet someone from Local Bitcoins. Local Bitcoins is kind of like a Craigslist or an online notice board where you can meet people physically and then sort of exchange cash for Bitcoins. Obviously you need to be mindful of security there. Or you can use an online exchange such as ACX. So ACX is actually one of the businesses at the Blockchain Center. And they offer a white label solution as well. So if any of you are wanting to set up your own Bitcoin exchange here or in other countries, then you can speak to Will Saunders, who's about tonight. He runs Global BTC, which is white label exchanges, and there's about 8 exchanges that are signed up in different countries right now to roll out this technology. So Bitcoin Wisdom is a decent website which shows all the volume of been traded across the different currencies. So there's just some stats around some of the biggest exchanges in the world. So that's quite a useful resource as well. And then CoinMarketCap. So you've heard of Bitcoin, but have any of you heard of any other cryptocurrencies? Put your hand up. Have you heard of any other cryptocurrencies? Who's heard of Ethereum? Excellent, great. The world computer, great. So Bitcoin is one of many cryptocurrencies, and for a long time it was about 80, 90, 95% of the value of all cryptocurrencies. Now it's sitting at around 47%. So a lot of value has not only continued to go into Bitcoin, but it's also gone into lots of other cryptocurrencies. So we can see that there's been a bit of a dip. I mean, as you're probably aware, that cryptocurrencies are extremely volatile, and they do tend to go up very quickly, and they also go down very quickly as well. But over time, they've tended to go up more than go down. But Again, it's just only invest what you could ever afford to lose, and just be aware that it's very experimental technology. With Bitcoin, for instance, like all blockchains to date, they're push technology. So whereas when you use a credit card, the receiver is actually pulling the funds from Visa or from Westpac or from the bank, whereas with Bitcoins and other blockchain cryptocurrencies, you're pushing the transaction. So when you push the transaction, that means that there's no recourse to get the transaction back. So unless the person wants to actually send it back to you, then that's the only way you can get it back. So there's no kind of bank of Bitcoin to call up if you send the funds to the wrong address. It's still very kind of nascent technology, and you just need to go really careful with when you start to use some of the tech. The best thing to do is maybe kind of, if you want to start playing with some of the cryptocurrencies, then download some software, maybe buy a couple of dollars worth of Bitcoin, convert it into Ethereum, maybe start using it for applications if you're a developer. But because cryptocurrencies are highly divisible, like Bitcoin you can divide into 8 decimal places, there's no need to start buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin or even a whole Bitcoin. You could buy points of a Bitcoin for just a few dollars and still experiment with the technology the same way as you could if you were to invest a lot of money. So just obviously we all know that the value of cryptocurrencies is going up a lot recently, but just be really careful and just realise that it is experimental technology and it's very volatile. But this is a website called coinmarketcap.com, and it's quite a good resource because you can click on any of these projects. Let's click on NEM, for instance. So NEM, they're our friends in open up a blockchain centre in Malaysia, and their blockchain application is designed for business applications. They have an interesting consensus mechanism called proof of importance, which is similar to proof of stake. It doesn't use CPU cycles or energy to secure the network. So there's some really innovative solutions coming out of how the blockchains can remain decentralized, but also the consensus mechanism. So here we can see where we can buy NEM. We can see their website. You can go to their social media channels, check out their Reddit and Twitter, etc. So it's kind of quite a nice little resource to do research about all the different cryptocurrencies. And many of them are, it's debatable how much utility they're offering, but yeah. Okay, cool. So I'm just mindful we're getting to the end now. So Block Party 1, cool. I can go back to my slides now here. Okay, cool. All right, so basically we've come to the end of the presentation about introduction to Bitcoin. I mean, hopefully you don't feel completely lost and you've managed to take some information away from this tonight. But like I said, I'll post all these links on the comment section of the meetup page. Has anyone got any sort of questions for just a couple of minutes? Any burning questions? If you want to put your hand up and shout any questions out, and then I'll just wrap up with a few other notices. Yeah.
Let's talk about Bitcoin or Ethereum. How do I cash it out?
So you want to cash out Ethereum or Bitcoin? Yeah. So there's CoinMarketCap, which is the website I said before. So you can click on, say, Ethereum, and then it will show you all the different currency markets or exchanges where the Ethereum is being traded. So there's a few in Australia. There's ACX has just integrated Ethereum. There's also BTC Markets has been around for quite some time. They're Melbourne based. And there's a lot of overseas exchanges as well. But you just have to bear in mind, as I mentioned before, that whoever controls your private key, so whoever has possession of your private key has control of your Bitcoin. So if you were to buy Bitcoin on ACX, for instance, and leave it on ACX, then you don't really control your Bitcoin. ACX does. And if ACX was to get hacked, heaven forbid, then you don't have the same insurance as what you would do with your money in a bank. If you're now then going to take your Bitcoin from ACX and send it to, say, Poloniex, for instance, which is a very popular alternative currency trading platform, and then you bought Ethereum, the same is true. They've now got control of your Ethereum. So the idea is for you to actually create your own wallets to be able to interact with the different blockchains. So for instance, if I wanted to buy Ethereum and hold Ethereum, I would want to sort of create an offline solution for Ethereum or use one of the hardware wallets, buy the Ethereum, take it from the exchange and then store it offline.
Change the private key then?
Yeah, so each blockchain would have its own cryptographic function or security. So they have, but basically they operate pretty much the same, where you have a public and private key, and that's the, yeah. Any other questions before I kind of just make another couple of announcements? Yeah. Hi, how are you? Excellent.
Thank you. You know, everything is in red on the cryptocurrency code.
There's been a little dip today, but it's,
China,
yeah, China's regulation, that's right.
some news, they are banning ICOs.
They're banning ICOs. China's banning ICOs, right? Okay, yeah. So that's it. Okay, cool. So I've kind of grown a little bit jaded with these big announcements out of China over the last few years, because it tends to have an effect on the price, but it tends to be that, you know, where the rule of law is not so strong, that it doesn't necessarily have so much of an effect, you know. So it's yeah, it's kind of interesting one. So a couple of years ago there were reports that China was banning Bitcoin, and then it had an effect on the price. And so obviously for regulators it's a challenge for them to kind of regulate this technology, because as you've seen, I created a Bitcoin address right there, and we can send and receive any amount of money or value to that address, and that can't be stopped. So I mean, in some ways it's very freedom enabling, because now if you've got access to the internet, you can create a Bitcoin address and you can receive money from anywhere in the world, and there's nothing anyone can do about that. So if you're part of the 2 billion people that don't have access to any financial services, that's great. If you're wanting to try to sort of stop particular transactions to certain people, then obviously it's got those challenges there. So yeah. So okay, cool. Well, I'm just mindful of time. There's just a couple of other announcements I've got before we wrap up. So Intersect, Australia's first FinTech festival, which is from the 27th of October to the 3rd of November 2017. So it's Australia's first FinTech festival, basically being organised by FinTech Australia. We've actually got one of the organisers, Jason Lee, here. Jason, did you want to say a couple of words? Jason Lee, everyone.
Thank you. Happy birthday, Martin.
Thanks very much.
So I'm Jason. I'm working on Intersect Festival. You just go to intersectfestival.com. We're having tickets up. It's going to be a week long full of FinTech activities. There will be a blockchain day on Wednesday itself. So I encourage you to check out the site and book right now for your tickets there, because it's going to be huge. We're going to get almost 1,000 people at the Melbourne Convention Centre, supported by the Victorian government. The likes of Auspos, Accenture, NetLabs, all will be there as well. So please stay tuned for this, the 27th October to the 3rd of November. And I believe we've got some upcoming masterclasses to share about as well, Martin. Yeah.
There we go. Excellent. Good stuff. Thanks, Jason. Excellent. So I just want to say as well, a big thank you to Jason, because Jason's recently come aboard as our Global Strategy and Partnerships Director, and he's helped us kind of create the relationship with the NEM Foundation. They were over here recently, and it's been a real pleasure to work with you, Jason, and also working now with the NEM Foundation to open blockchain centres, starting with KL, and there's many other places on the horizon. So nice one, Jason. Thanks very much. So we actually kicked off 2 masterclasses this last month, blockchain masterclass and cryptocurrency investing masterclass. So they're structured 90-minute classes. They're really awesome material that's been created by a corporate trainer that's passionate about cryptocurrency. So we've actually got 3 coming up next month. The 25th of September is the cryptocurrency investing masterclass. The blockchain one is on the next day, the 26th, and then initial coin offering. So initial coin offering is whereby projects, rather than going through the traditional route of getting VC or VC funding or going to the ASX to do an IPO, they're releasing their own cryptocurrency tokens or blockchain-backed assets up front, and then those tokens can sometimes be used on the platform once it's developed. So it's a way of getting blockchain projects actually getting funding without having to go through the traditional route. So this is actually referring to the China regulation around, in China the government are looking at clamping down on these ICOs. So just like any project that might be out there, one needs to do their due diligence, look at the team, look at the experience, look at the white paper, look at the technology, do your due diligence. That's very important to do. Okay, cool. So that's next month. If you go to the Eventbrite page, if you type in Blockchain Centre, you can find details of those classes. And I think Jolene is around if you wanted to sign up for them tonight. Say hi, Jolene. There's Jolene. Excellent. So she can help sign you up tonight. And cool. So tomorrow night, join us for tomorrow night's Block Party 1 event from 6 p.m, which is Ethereum 101, the Altar with Indoors, one of our sponsors, Monero and Stratis. So they're really interesting projects. So if you want to dive a little bit deeper down the rabbit hole into cryptocurrency shenanigans, then you can come along tomorrow night. And that was my last slide. So yeah, we've now got drinks and nibbles at the Blockchain Centre, so please feel free to come over there and hang about for a while and see the Blockchain Centre. If you want to grab a kids crypto poetry book as well, which is pretty cool, so you can grab one from the table there, and also an ACX $10 discount code. So thanks very much for coming tonight, and that's it.
Hang on, I'm not just the strategy guy, I'm also the party guy. It's Martin's birthday, and obviously a birthday can't be a birthday without a birthday cake, right? So we've got a birthday cake there, and if you don't mind, let's all sing a birthday song. Nothing better than to embarrass the speaker on the stage itself on his actual birthday. So the kind of treat, let's all sing Martin a happy birthday. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Come on.
Oh no, this is so embarrassing. Excellent. Hey.
Martin, happy birthday to you.
Nice one. Hey. Hey. Okay, cool. Nice one. Cheers. Thanks very much. Cheers.
I reckon
excellent.
People can come up to the front and take a huge, massive group picture. Imagine having 200 people on your birthday. What a surprise.
I know. Okay, do I hold it? Hold it here.
Come to the front.
I'm holding a cake here. Okay. Excellent. Is there any other Blockchain Centre people? Come join me on stage. David, you got a Blockchain Centre t-shirt on.
Well, Martin, come to the centre, and if you
oh my gosh.
Front, let's take a group photo of everyone.
A group photo of everyone?
Of course, come on.
So we're going?
Stand in the middle.
Okay.
From the stage.
From the stage. Oh, you're coming over here, right? I guess. Cool.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you guys want to stand up.
Okay.
All right.
What are we doing? Are we going to do the 3, 2, 1 blockchain or something? Or
I'm going to do a panoramic shot. All look here. All right. 1, 2, 3. Smile. All the way through. All right. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Go. Huge birthday. You got it? Yep. All right.
okay. Nice one.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.